Hi everyone, and welcome to the Rambler podcast. Before we get into this episode, I want to just make a special announcement and let you know that registration for our Legacy Gala event is now open. Our theme for this year's event is Together Toward Tomorrow. We invite you to please join us on March 18th as we celebrate our school and those who continue to lead us into the future. This year, we're going to be honoring those who have supported the past and have helped form a new tomorrow for our students. We're going to be celebrating Barbara Lechner, Villa Maria Academy class of 1966, and Mike Mishler, prep class of 1987, as we induct them into the President's Hall of Fame. This premier fundraising event is going to be taking place once again at the Bayfront Convention Center for an evening of celebrating, dancing with our live band, and spirited bidding, of course. Last year, we had our first ever sellout event with 500 people in attendance, so don't delay in getting your tickets. And if you can't make it to this year's event, we invite you to please still show your support for our students by making a gift to the Legacy Gala. For registration to the event, to make a gift, or for more information, please visit www.cathedralprep.com/legacygala. So thank you so much again, and now let's get into this episode of the Rambler podcast featuring Debbie Ut. Hello everyone, my name is Jimmy Smith, and welcome to episode number 16 of the Rambler podcast, where we are passionate about sharing what makes Cathedral Prep the standard of excellence, from highlighting the successes of our Prep or Villa alumni base, as well as highlighting the people who make Prep great for our students today. On this episode of the podcast, we are thrilled to have Debbie Ut as a guest on the podcast. Debbie is a 1982 graduate of Villa Maria Academy, and then began her college career at Gannon University, majoring in biology. 1 year later, she changed directions and applied to the St. Vincent School of Nursing. Debbie graduated from there in 1986 and started her career as a critical care nurse. Debbie then moved to Virginia with her family, where she continued nursing at Alexandria Hospital, and then they returned to Erie in 1990, and Debbie returned to St. Vincent. Debbie took a step back from her career to focus on raising her children, but still found time to volunteer at St. Paul's Free Clinic, and all 4 children attended St. Luke's School, where Debbie was heavily involved as a volunteer, parent, and coach. Then in March 2008, Debbie's husband Jerry passed away of cancer and left Debbie and the children with a future waiting to be written. That was when Debbie was now called to step in to lead the team at Professional Communications Messaging Services, Inc., PCMSI, the company they owned and Jerry had grown. Today, she is the president of PCMSI, and the company has enjoyed a great prosperity. Debbie has 4 kids: Jared, prep class of 2008, Lauren, Villa class of 2009, Christine, Villa class of 2013, and Thomas, prep class of 2018. So we are very fortunate and humbled to have Debbie as a guest on the podcast. Debbie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we're glad to have you on. You know, it's first time I've been to your office here, and just want to say beautiful office. We're sitting here at your place of business, and it's nice to be able to see the bay here and nice views. We were talking a little bit about the different sports and activities you get to see through the year.
It is. It's a beautiful view, and every day I get to look up from my desk and just sort of see what's going on out in nature, all of God's gifts right in front of me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so nice. No, thank you for having me here. So I guess let's start here when we talk about for the podcast. You know, I mentioned in your bio, you graduated from Villa in 1982. What led you to choose going to Villa?
So that would take me back to 1978, my 8th grade year at St. Paul's. I went to a little neighborhood Catholic school.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody walked to school. Lots of us were cousins, friends. There were 13 kids in our class. We were all like family, still are very close with each other. And at that time, really, there were options for young people. The public schools were thriving. Erie High was tech.
Okay.
So there was a technical school option. We had St. Benedict's Academy. We had Mercyhurst Prep, which was the co-ed school, and we had Villa Maria Academy. And really, Villa was known then, just like Prep is known now, to be the school for the best education, the best opportunities for women. So I remember choosing to take the entrance exam. I don't know if the other schools had entrance exams, but I didn't take those. Just took Villa's. And I was thrilled when we got letters in the mail back then. You know, waited to get the mail. I was thrilled when I was accepted. So.
Oh, that's so awesome. So your time at Villa, what maybe are some special memories you have from your time as a Victor?
I would say like most of the Villa grads, just our traditions. They're awesome. And they're living today, which is great as well. Sports day, you know, the freshman year sports day, you're just like, you know, the little guys. Mm-hmm. And I remember coming together as a class and what that did to our class and all the things you worked on, the dance, the cheerleaders, the artwork. I was a cheerleader all 4 years. And our big claim to fame was we won cheerleading all 4 years. And we had pretty much the same team of girls. And it was like shocking as freshmen to win cheerleading. So we went on sophomore year, we have to win it again.
Right.
Junior year, we have to win it again. So that was a great time. Ring ceremony, of course, just a beautiful, meaningful ceremony. I love my ring. I still have my ring today. I remember another sort of tradition was moving of the seats in the auditorium in junior year, moving into the senior year seats, because when the seniors leave at the end of the year, there's like a week or so where you get to sit in the senior seats, and how quickly. I remember sitting there thinking, I'm here already.
Yeah.
You know, those years had gone by. And then the graduation, our ceremony's just beautiful and meaningful. And, you know, I look every year and see the pictures of the girls that graduate, and it's still the same. And it means a lot. So I think those memories, but I also makes me think of a quote from Maya Angelou that I love. And it says, you may not remember what people said to you or did for you, but you will remember how they made you feel.
I love that.
And I feel that way about Villa. Like I'm not going to remember every memory. Like pictures will come up and I'll say, oh yeah, I forgot about that. But I do remember how it made me feel to be there and to be a part of it. And it really made me feel like I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So I can. And I can go out and go to Gannon, and I can get into college. I can get into nursing school. I can be a mom. I can step into this role, you know, after my husband passed away. I can do that stuff. So I think that came from my time at Villa.
So you would say that a lot of the confidence that was instilled in you was a lot of what Villa helped cultivate from your time there.
Absolutely. And it was the can do, but it was also bringing the faith into that. Like I said, I have lots of different verses on my desk, and I draw from my faith in everything I do. But, you know, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me is one that I used a lot and said over and over. And the fact that Villa did, you know, bring together, you know, a good solid education, but also faith-based. Was the big difference.
Well, that's great to hear about the different experiences that you were able to have and helped develop you to who you are today. And then is there anything beyond what we just discussed that maybe helped prepare you for your life and career?
You know, Villa pushed you a little bit, got you a little bit outside your comfort zone at times, but guided me and encouraged me and all the students. I always felt very much a part of a whole. And even coming from a very small school, 3 of us went to Villa from St. Paul's. I never felt like an outsider. I came from a smaller neighborhood, came from, you know, lesser means than a lot, but none of that mattered. And I think Villa taught me that, like, really to be who you are, use God's gifts to the greatest potential and become the best version of you. You know, our class of 1982 had really great athletes. We won states in basketball that year. We had amazing, gifted artists, dancers, brilliant minds, just hardworking, driven young women. And one of the talks I did at Villa one time, I compared it to the parable of the sower, where these gifts are like the seeds. If the seeds fall on a path, they don't grow at all. And if they fall on rocky ground, they may grow for a while, but they don't take root. And if they fall among the thorns, they eventually get choked out and they don't mature. But if the seeds fall on good soil, they'll persevere and they produce valuable crop. And I always said Villa planted our seeds on good soil.
Mm.
And I see that. I see it at my classmates and my friends. And a lot of my friends now are Villa grads, and they weren't necessarily my closest friends at Villa.
Yeah.
But you just have that commonality.
I love that parable, and I'm glad that is something that you were able to share with the students at the time there and share with us on the podcast.
Yeah. And these young people come with, such different backgrounds, and that doesn't mean a darn thing.
Right.
Because we all come with gifts.
Yes.
And, not everybody's going to be the smartest or, the most talented or the most athletic, but you'll find your place and hopefully grow in it.
Yeah. And I would say even especially now with the new building that we have, and
Beautiful.
oh my gosh, it's amazing. And the students coming together, one of the things that I realized is it consolidates resources so much where you can do so much for the kids. So to your point, different kids, different backgrounds, different interest level, you can help cultivate whatever gift God has given them at a place like Prep, because we have all the opportunities there for the kids to excel. And I'll tell you what, if there's not something exactly there put together now, all these teachers and administrators want to help those kids succeed in the area they are interested in. So as long as it falls within the parameters of what we can provide at Prep, most teachers are willing to pursue that and help them grow in it too.
Yeah, it's a great future for the kids. And more I hear, I was always for the merger. I knew it was time. I knew that's where it had to go.
Yeah.
And it's okay. We're strong women now. Back
Yes.
in 1982, it was great. You didn't see as many women in leadership. You didn't see as many women owning businesses. And it was great to go through school and everything was run by women.
Yeah.
We were class president. We were class treasurer. We were the head of everything. And that was awesome. But my girls even said to me, Mom, your experience wasn't the same as ours and won't be the same as the girls now, but we want to make it the best experience that it can be. Yeah,
that's a great perspective to have on it for sure. So question before we get into some leadership things and whatnot to talk to you about is just, so you went to Villa, and then as I mentioned in your bio, you ended up going into nursing. How'd that come up?
Actually, I never really thought a whole lot, and I feel sort of bad for the kids in high school because you don't really know, what you want to be and to go into college and to choose a major. But when I came to Villa, there were two paths you could take. You could take the academic path or the business path. And your testing sort of showed you where you should be. I tested high in math and science. I always loved math and science. And so I took the academic path. We still had to take typing and some other business courses, but it just sort of set you on the path that was more meant for you. So after graduation, wasn't sure. That's why I went again and studied biology. And then I heard about the opportunity to go to the St. Vincent School of Nursing. And it was an accelerated program, and again had to take testing and apply to it, and was very excited to get into it. And it sort of married everything, my gifts, because I do love to serve.
Yeah.
And it's still now, I love to cook, and I love to have people over, and I love to do things for people. And so to marry that with being interested in science and math was just a great opportunity. And I loved my years of nursing at St. Vincent and my volunteer work. I keep my license. I'll always keep my license. It's not like I was a nurse. I am a nurse, and I will always be a nurse. And hopefully in my retirement, that's where my heart will be, to do some volunteer work.
Well, and that's great too that, we're talking about gifts God blessed you with, and obviously the heart to serve, that's one. And then to pair it with the ability to do it in that field where there's obviously so many needs across the community, and the amount of volunteering that you've done through the years too goes a long way for a lot of people.
Yeah, that and you become the family nurse. You don't get phone calls. I worked in cardiology, but you can read things, you can understand things, you can Google things.
Sure.
and learn a lot, and then just put it more in easy to understand terms.
Right.
So yeah, I still do that quite a bit.
Well, it's funny. Before we got on the podcast here, I was telling you how my sister, she lives in Chicago, Alexa. She's a physician's assistant. So she's the family doctor, right? So we're calling her, texting her, hey, Braden had this happen, my son, or Carter had this, and what do you think we should do, or what do you think? And, she's always very, very helpful. So kudos to Alexa on all her knowledge and everything she helps us with.
It's great to have that.
It sure is, yeah, absolutely. Well, awesome. No, I appreciate you reflecting back with us a little bit, looking at your time at Villa, and I'm going to have some different kind of leadership questions for you, some different things on your experiences and leading the company you do now, and things that, we might be able to learn from your wisdom in this area. Can you first tell us a little bit about your company and what is it that you guys do?
So Professional Communications and Messaging Service was actually founded in 1962 by my father-in-law. The Medical Association approached him and said, we need an answering service in town for the doctors. After hours, weekends, holidays. Back then they wrote little notes on a piece of paper and put it sort of in this turntable thing, for each account. And it was needed, and it was successful. And then it grew into more. And answering services became more commonplace in the service industry. And along with that, the company built a group of towers and had a paging company, and we were known as the beeper people for a long time. So New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, we had answering services, a few local ones, because you had to be local back then. Long distance was way too expensive. But really the bread and butter of the company was the paging part of it, because everybody had a pager back then. And we supported our own pager, so it was nice. In 1995, my father-in-law was ready to retire and sold the entire company to a paging company, USA Mobility, and they had no interest in the answering service. And my husband, Jerry, at the time, was quite interested in the answering service. He saw the future then, that things were starting to change.
Sure.
And so we bought back that part of the company. They didn't really want it anyway, and brought everything into Erie, and we were able to run these small answering services. We brought them together, and we were one of the first services to have a website. So we started getting clients from across the country, and that was really exciting.
Wow.
And opened a lot of doors for us. Since then, I've redone our website 3 times since I've been here, but when I came, it was still the original, 2008. So things, more people had websites, but you weren't really changing them, and you weren't getting into SEO and all that other kind of stuff.
Sure.
So when I got here, there was some work to do, and it was good work because it made me sit and understand each part of the business. When you redevelop a website, it's like everything.
Yeah.
So now we answer for a couple thousand different clients nationally, internationally, from pet grooming companies to doctors, lawyers, plumbers, electricians, property management companies. We do things like lead generation. We'll do appointment scheduling, employee call-off lines, whatever. We're very, very custom to our clients. So we build each account for their needs, and we get a hold of them however they need us to get a hold of them. It could be time of day, day of week, and it can all just be part of the account. The account can be a page long on the computer. It could be 100 pages.
Wow.
It's all point and click, and the operators learn how our software works, and they can answer for anybody. So now we have about 100 employees. We work 24/7, 365.
Wow.
And since COVID, about 70% of our operators are still remote. We didn't have any of them remote.
Yeah.
And within about a 3-month time period, we got about 90% out of here.
Yes.
It was just the people who wanted to be here.
Sure.
So, it's evolved, and we keep changing with the times. You have to.
Yeah. Well, and that's something I was going to ask off of what you were just sharing with us is, how do you see that when you look at the marketplace when it comes to business in terms of flexibility and, the old Wayne Gretzky thing, know where the puck's going, right? So how do you as a leader sit back and evaluate different things like that in terms of what you see the product or services that you provide in your company might change depending on the industry?
Yeah, change is a word I really had to get used to in a lot of my life. It changed a lot in 2008. When you have children, that all changes everything.
It
That's
sure
for a lot
does.
of us. But, in 2008, that was a big That was a big change for me to walk in here after being a wife, a mother, and nurse. I never wrote an email.
Mm.
Back then, moms didn't do emails. Nobody did that, not even with the coaches or anything like that. I hadn't taken the business course, right? I took all the science
right.
and math stuff. So I think God gave me the patience and the humbleness. You have to be humble, because I'll tell you what, I hung up on people. I didn't know how to use our phone system. I'd have somebody important calling me, and I wouldn't answer the phone correctly, and they'd be gone. And, a little mantra then was nowhere to go but up, because I thought I just have to learn from everybody here. I did take a lot of time and sat with all the people here, all the different departments, and just learned what they did. I didn't learn how to do it. I learned what they did and what they needed and where they saw that the business needed to go. And, made short-term goals, made some long-term goals, but really just stayed in the short term to try to get to those long terms. And that was really just to keep the company successful, keep it afloat.
Yeah.
2008 was a tough time. The economy was really bad.
Mm-hmm.
We lost a lot of clients. And thank God I am not a worrier. I thought their companies are closing. That's why we lose clients.
Right.
We're still going. So, yeah, we've seen a lot of change. COVID brought a lot of change. It taught us a lot. It taught us how to work together even more, how much we care about each other. Our employees were just thrilled about the seriousness, being a nurse and I care about people, I care about how they feel, and that was a serious time. We really did everything we could to keep things going and to keep people comfortable.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and I think, somebody like yourself, you don't accomplish what you have since, call it 2008, right? When you really took things over, without stepping into what God called you to do at that time. And really, like you said, dive into learning from people in the company and just figuring things out. Your mantra, nowhere to go but up. I mean, that's, it's we kind of chuckle and laugh, but that's true.
It's pretty basic.
Yeah.
Anybody can say that any day.
That's right.
And especially if you feel like you're failing a little, or like this is going to be a huge challenge. Well, let's just do the best we can. Know where to go, but keep learning.
And so you're so accomplished, today now in your leadership and what you've done with the company. So in your opinion, what would you say it means to be a leader, and in what ways would you even recommend that somebody can grow as a leader?
To be a leader. Honestly, to be a leader is and should be the most humbling position, because you really have to take into account the people that you're leading and where you are leading them. The people I have here are just passionate about what we do. We have great people. They all have different needs, and they all have come from different backgrounds, and to again, take the time to listen to them, to understand them, to use their gifts and talents to grow this business better. But all along, realizing to them this is work, and they have a whole other life and family life. And that's important to me. It's important to me personally, so it's important to me for all my employees here. So really, just, remember you are in a position of authority. People get scared when they come up in my office. They're like nervous wrecks, and you don't have to ever be afraid to come in. The door's always open. I try a lot, to go down into the service and talk with people and get to know them, and I understand why. It's a respect thing, and I get that. Yeah. But it's really it's humbling for me, and I think that is that's a key to be a good leader.
No, I appreciate you sharing that all. It's all about servant leadership, right? That's what it sounds like, is serving your people and always putting the interests of your people at best while advancing the company forward and doing that. And, as it pertains to leadership, you kind of talked a little bit about how when you first stepped into the realms of the company and you were asking different departments, what areas, can we do better and this and that. What would you say you learned most during that time, those early years of you starting to lead this company into where you are today?
I think one of the things I learned, because being a mom, being a nurse, there were lots of fires to put out. Things had to happen quickly. Like, this has to be done, that has to be done.
Yeah.
In nursing, it was the same way. You got doctor's orders right away, or you just did what you knew needed to be done. And in business, it was, I really had to learn, sometimes you need to step back. You don't always have the answers in that moment. You don't have to. That doesn't make you a weak leader. It actually makes you a stronger leader. But to be able to say, and I didn't learn this till I was in my 40s, let me think about that, and really to pray on things, to use wisdom, discernment, gifts from God again, that give you the right answer. And I think it really has your employees learn to respect you, to know that you are going to take time and think about it. You don't have to have the answers instantly.
Yeah.
I think learning that lesson was really important to me.
So you almost, and I don't want to assume, but asking, when you stepped in, you mentioned, felt like there were so many different things you had to do. So you learned to take a step back, kind of wait, let things happen a little bit, evaluate decision-making, and do it that way.
Right, that everything didn't have to happen now, that I didn't have, there are going to be things going on, but I didn't have to have the answer in that moment. And it wasn't always coming even from me, there were others. And I think that's a good bit of advice for younger people or people that want to start something is, I always had mentors. I had my quote unquote, I called them my men in suits in 2008. And it was sort of an advisory board for me. I had 5 gentlemen that Jerry had worked with in business, that I knew personally, that had businesses, that came in here weekly, and we talked for just a while, and then monthly, and then quarterly, and now I've maintained friendships with them and their families, just to bounce things off of and make sure I was going in the right direction. And now I have a group of women, we just call each other Erie Women's Group, because we didn't have any other name, and it doesn't really matter the name, but there are about a half a dozen of us. We all own businesses, and we keep each other accountable. We meet monthly. We do a round table. We choose somebody with a certain issue, and we sort of pinpoint that and help them through it and keep them accountable. Yeah. And we all need it, because we're all, the boss in our business. Right. But you need people to be accountable to and to help you through things. And we talk business, but we also talk personal as well, because personal affects business. We know that, as an owner, a business owner, but then, we can relate when our employees go through struggles. Yeah. That they will bring things to work and how to help them through that. So
I'm a firm believer in mentorship. I think that's extremely important for anybody at any point in your career, to have somebody that's a little bit maybe further along than you, a different vantage point, who can kind of speak into your life and help correct you. And it's not always the pleasant, fun conversations. Sometimes it's hard, but in the end, that person cares about you and your success, and they want to help you succeed in what you're doing.
And to your point there, people want to help.
Right.
Yeah, don't be like, it's almost an honor, if a young person asks help with something.
I don't want to say why be coachable, but for you in those years, you mentioned that what was it, men in suits?
My men in suits.
Your men in suits would come, right? You would come weekly, then quarterly.
It was a little bit of an intimidation. The people here, my management team knew, I knew I didn't have this on my own. I did need some input of people who were already businessmen in the community or businesswomen now. So
having that perspective, were you very coachable early on, or was it hard for you to be coachable earlier on?
Very coachable, but very prayerful. And, I would take things and pray about them even before Jerry passed, of course, was, just lay it at the foot of the cross. And thankfully, God gave me that spirit. I'm not a worrier. And I did pray even then when Jerry was sick, please, Lord, don't I don't want to be a worrier. It's just I don't have that extra energy to give up. I have 4 children, I have a full plate, and I never became a worrier. So yes, I was coachable. I take their advice, but I always prayed on it, thought on it, and didn't always use it. Right. My business was different than theirs, and had had to do my own thing. I always was part of the business. Jerry and I met when we were 16. So his dad had owned it. He had worked in it. I love to hear him talk about business. So thankfully, I was always part of it. And I even worked as an operator for a while before my youngest was born. And when I came back in 2008, I went down and learned again how to be an operator. Just so.
Yeah.
I hope they don't have those recordings. We record all our calls. I don't want to listen to any of those.
But you knew what it meant, not just to lead the business, but also be in the everyday work of it too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My children have all worked at times in the business. And, at first people here were shocked. Like, you're going to be an operator? Yes. That's the best way. I didn't have that opportunity to learn. I did, like I said, I was an operator, but to really learn from the ground up. And if this was a business that was their passion, I'll see that and I'll know that and they'll know that too.
Right.
So far, it's not that way. They're all sort of doing their own thing, and that's great.
Well, and one point I wanted to make when you're talking about being coachable and how you would take the advice and you were eager to learn and eager to listen, but you also went back and prayed about it and thought through things. And number one, most important, is that you did take that time to pray. But I think also just listening, I can see that your identity was in Christ. It wasn't in the business. It wasn't in their feedback on how you were performing or not or whatnot. And that's why you can almost separate yourself from either constructive criticism or advice or, hey, good job, you're doing great in this, because your identity is in Christ. And when you recognize that, you're able to receive feedback to be successful in what you're doing, because you're not taking the criticism to heart and saying, I'm the failure, saying what I'm doing might not be successful and I need to fix this. But my identity is in Christ, and that doesn't change regardless of what I'm doing in terms of success or failure in the professional workplace and kind of that perspective.
Absolutely.
And I can see that with you, yeah. So, in terms of, young professionals or people in their workplace, that skills that you would recommend that maybe they could develop more to have a professional career that they're successful in. What advice would you recommend for somebody like that?
I think of skills, and people can develop skills, but that doesn't always set you up for success. And professional success has a lot of different, you can define that in a lot of different ways. I'll go to raising my kids, and what I tell them, or the young people that I know, to be successful, it's more about your character. It's more about who you are. Are you honest? Are you humble? Are you patient? Are you willing? Do you have a servant's heart? These are things that will set you up for not just professional success, but just being, success in life, being a successful person. You see people that are professionally successful but aren't happy, don't have joy.
Right.
And I say nobody can take my joy, because my joy is in Christ.
Yes.
And I'm gonna keep living that way. I'm gonna keep living. I tell my kids now, put the goalposts in eternity. Don't even worry about what am I gonna do in retirement. First of all, I might not make it to retirement. Secondly, look at how quickly the world changes. So how about if we put those goalposts in eternity, and everything we do, we're depositing there. And that just helps me. It takes the pressure off.
You're right. Yeah.
It's day to day a lot easier to deal with.
The trials, tribulations, successes in this world, here today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah,
that
I
whole
just
thing.
saw. It might have been at church on Sunday. The hearse, that was dragging the U-Haul. He's like, "You never see this, do you? Because you can't take it with you."
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I never saw that visual before, but it was funny.
Yeah, right.
So it's, put our treasures where they belong, build our treasures where they'll be valuable.
Yeah, it's a great point you made too about not necessarily the technical skills, because those can apply to a lot of different avenues. I like how you took that and said it's a lot about the character development, being a servant leader, being humble, all those different types of things.
Teachable. And you can't teach people that. So you can teach them skills.
Yeah.
But if they don't have that other, if they're not going to be hardworking and honest, like I said, and teachable, it's not going to be successful.
Right. And I would encourage anybody listening to this, even though it may not be teachable, you can still develop that. You can become a person.
Exactly.
Yes, you can become a person that develops your character more. And it's just a daily decision. Just, I'm going to do the right thing today. And, you make those decisions day after day, week after week, month after month. And, that's like a muscle, right? It continues to grow and develop.
And it gets easier. Once you do it, you're like, man, and it frees you.
Yeah.
This is the way to do it. Why am I fighting this? Let's just
right.
do it.
Yes, exactly. Are you able to identify maybe like one change that you've made in your career that brought you a lot more success than maybe others?
One change in my career. I think the one thing that I did change was thinking, I don't have to have all the answers.
And it seems like it's more been a continual growth for you versus one moment that you say, oh yeah, in 2011 I did this. It seems like here in your story, it's more about the journey and the daily, weekly, monthly improvements that you've made through various measures.
Absolutely. And knowing when to take those steps and knowing when to do those steps and working together as a team here and always going back in prayer.
Yeah.
That this is the next step. This is the next thing. The business world right now is tough. It's been a 1-2 punch. COVID was, we had to redo our whole business model.
Yeah.
And now post-COVID, with everything that's happening with the economy and everything else, we have another whole set in hiring, finding people who want to work and who want to be here, and the amount of money, our payroll has gone up so much. We're a people company. We're a technology company, but we are a people company. Yeah. And we run on really good people. And every call matters, right? Every call matters. It could be life and death. It could be a simple call where they're scheduling something, like I said, a dog groomer. But that could be the life or death of somebody's business. So, it all matters. So finding the right people. There have been a lot of challenges, but we're making it through it, and we have a great team, and I know God has good plans for us. I pray on this building often.
Well, I forget exactly what verse it is, but you may not know what I'm doing now, but soon you'll know. Yeah. And as you're just sharing that, a couple weeks ago, an episode of the podcast came out with Tim DeCastro on it.
And we grew up around the corner from each other.
Oh,
and
no
now
way.
we live around the corner from each other.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and he had great family. Greg, I know all his siblings, and his brother Tom's my real estate agent, and his sister Teresa's a good friend. And,
oh, my goodness. Well, no wonder why you guys sound pretty similar in this. I was going to mention, he talked about on his episode of the podcast about being how he tries to cast the vision for Area Insurance being a people-centered business where we serve our people first. And I don't know if you've seen their new building yet, but, I was mentioning their their VP's offices are in the middle of the floors and all the people are sitting around the outside. They get the better view, the better seats because they're serving the people in their company more than the VPs, the leaders. So just hearing you talk about how you operate your company the same way, to me, it makes me think, there's clues to success. And one of them is you serve people first. You put people first, and then ultimately the right things will come of it.
Yeah, for sure. My big motto at work here was give grace. I said that for me, for our employees here, but also I said it to my employees. I said, we don't realize how stressed we are, let alone our callers. I like to say every caller's really nice and friendly, but it doesn't always happen that way. But give them grace. Realize you've been through a lot, they've been through a lot.
Right.
And I think that helps. We send out reminders and try to keep things positive here. Which
it can be tough, especially on you as the leader bearing, the weight on your shoulder of all that stuff. But like you said, you're not really a worrier because you put your trust in God ultimately. So a lot of that you just give to Him and move forward each day.
I do this, right at the foot of the cross.
Yep.
Right at the foot of the cross.
That's good stuff. Last little question for you here is, I want to ask about goal setting. In terms of be it short-term, long-term goals. For somebody who maybe hasn't ever thought to themselves where they want to be 5, 10, 15 years from now, or maybe they did when they were in high school and college. Now they're working their job and they're just kind of going through the motions. What advice maybe would you have when it comes to the idea of goal setting
I think it's really important to have goals. I think it's important to set a long-term goal. Don't get too caught up in it, but have a long-term goal, and then set the short-term goals to meet that. Because along the way, you may have to change, and we've seen that, more so in the last 3 years. And then you may even have to change the long-term goal, and that's all okay.
Yeah.
But if you have to know where you're headed, and you have to have a feeling of this is the way I want to go. So when you are prayerful, when you are making decisions for your business, for your life, with your children, that you know what your long-term goal is, and then set the short-term to meet that.
Yeah.
I think that's served me well. I think it's an easier way. And again, I think it's the least stressful way to do things. As far as the company and goals, strategic planning, there are other companies that are experts in that and they're great at that. And if you ever need to do that, on that scale, that's when you go to the experts, because it really does take a lot of work. But every person should have long-term goals and then set some short-term goals to get there. But no, you have to be nimble along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I think it's important, like you said, not just you want professional goals, but also personal goals and faith goals and different categories of your life that you can look into short-term and long-term, who you might want to be and what you might want to do and accomplish. So no, that's really great. And all right, so I got one last question for you. It's a fun one. Okay. I ask all of the alumni guests this question. So if you could go back in time and speak at your Villa graduation to your classmates, knowing what you know now, what would you say to them?
What I'd say to them is what I say to myself, what I say to so many people almost daily, is to know that every breath, every step, every day, God is with you. And I say that as I walk, as I breathe, every breath, every step, He's right here with me. That I and you are a child of the King of Kings. We're royalty, and we all are. And that I only look to two eyes, and to look to two eyes. So look to His eyes, because people have their own opinions and their own experiences in life, and it's good to get advice and opinions from people. But when you bring that together and you think about it and you pray on it and you think of His two eyes, what do I do for Him? What does He want me to do? It just makes life a lot easier.
I think that is a great way to end the podcast, is on that note, because ultimately everything we're talking about, we already kind of mentioned. It's here today, could be gone tomorrow, right? The successes, the failures. It's when you're successful, be humble. When you're failure, realize there's nowhere to go but up. There's different perspectives you need to carry through life, but ultimately, if your eyes are focused on that goalpost, right, of eternity, all these things that happen day to day are just small little inconveniences on the journey to ultimately to lead to Him.
And just love.
Yep, absolutely. No, I couldn't agree with you more. And no, I appreciate you coming on as a guest of the podcast. Thank you again for hosting me down here in your office. It's fun to come down here, and no, we look forward to seeing you again real soon. Thank you, Debbie.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Hello, and thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Rambler podcast featuring Debbie Utt. We're very thankful for Debbie being a guest on the podcast. It was great to be able to hear about the principles that she's been able to learn through her years in business that has led to the success she's had. And, one of the things that I really love about Debbie is how much of her faith drives what she does. You can just hear that through our conversation. And again, we appreciate Debbie being a guest on the podcast. The next episode of the Rambler podcast will be coming out on March 20th. It is going to feature Cathedral Prep baseball head coach Joshua Constable. Josh was appointed as the head baseball coach at Cathedral Prep in July of 2017, and during his 5 seasons, he has a combined record of 73-22. They have a great team going into this upcoming season, so we're going to talk about his expectations for the season and a little bit more about Josh and his coaching staff and whatnot. So stay tuned for that episode of the Rambler podcast. But thanks again for listening today. God bless, and roll Ramblers.